Hey, welcome in, folks. Great to see you on this Saturday evening. Got another update for you as we're continuing to monitor the models and the changes and the tweaks in the forecast for our upcoming two major winter storms, one tomorrow and another starting early next week that is going to impact many in the deep south and bring record snow to areas that really just don't see it very often. So definitely stay tuned as we discuss all of that. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell for the latest notifications. That'll keep you up to date with all of the changing model guidance. And I do expect some tweaks to the forecast definitely before we're all said and done. So you're definitely going to have that bell hit so you're the first to know about those changes. All right, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. I will also add here, comment, let me know where you're watching from as well here, whether you're in the Northeast, the Southeast, along the Gulf Coast, or somewhere else in the country. Would love to hear that as well. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and dive on into that data and give you the latest information. So right next to me, this is the greatest and latest, newest European model run from this afternoon, showing that double threat for winter weather in the Northeast and the Deep South. And again, folks, tomorrow's storm is going to be no picnic either. Some folks could see half a foot to a foot of snow out of that one. I know a lot of us are talking about the southern storm coming up, and that one obviously will have its own impacts, but both storms going to bring impacts, and you can see that quite well on the model here. All right, so this is brand new, folks. I figured I would go ahead and bring this up and show it to you. This is, let me see if I can make it fit the screen a little bit better here. There you go. This is the winter storm outlook from NOAA, kind of showing that potential for winter weather from our second storm. So this is just a little bit of a teaser for what we're going to talk about in today's video. You see all that red? That is a high likelihood of winter storm criteria being met, including places like Raleigh, Atlanta, Myrtle Beach, back down into Montgomery, Jackson, Mississippi, really just about the entire state of Louisiana, also running the risk there. So you see what's going to be a big deal. This is not something that I would say is really being hyped up overboard by any means. This really is going to be a big one, and with Arctic air in place, anything that falls, it's going to stay there for a while. Some folks are going to see a very wintry landscape for quite some time that they're really just not used to in areas right along the Gulf Coast and up through the southeastern coastline of the lower 48. Now, here are our current alerts also starting to fill in on the map here as we get closer to our storm system. Storm number one already pretty evident on the map here. You can see all of those advisories and warnings up into the Northeast, down through portions of the Mid-Atlantic, heck, even portions of Kentucky and Tennessee going to get on the action for tomorrow's storm, where we will see accumulating snowfall out of that one. So definitely going to see a very active stretch tomorrow, and then look back towards Texas, Louisiana, and southern Mississippi, folks. Some of these people are under winter storm watches for the first time in 11 years. So it has been a while, and this storm is definitely going to be one of historic proportions, not just because of the impacts, but just because how infrequent it is we get winter weather this far south. It's really just not something we see very often. So definitely it's a very interesting map to see here begin to unfold through much of the country. Now, let's go ahead and dive on into these storm systems. We'll start with the first one. Let me back it up a little bit for you and kind of break this one down for you. So this is kind of what we're seeing out there overnight tonight and kind of through this evening. We've got some leftover rain in the east and some winter weather into the interior Northeast and even back down through portions of the Ohio River Valley. But the real fun begins as we go into overnight tonight and especially tomorrow morning, I think. This is 8 a.m. tomorrow, and notice what's beginning to form here down into the Carolinas. Low pressure at the surface beginning to deepen, and that combined with an Arctic air mass spilling in out of Canada and really already in much of the lower 48, but oozing eastbound. That combination of both of those ingredients, yeah, we've got some snow beginning to fall here into Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, even portions of southern Ohio, and areas in here could get surprised with a good couple of inches of snow. Again, it is very cold out there, so we're not going to run into any sort of melting problems at the surface. Anything that falls will stick very easily, and that's just the beginning of the storm. We get that first round tomorrow morning, and then by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, notice this storm continuing to strengthen right up the coast and eventually taking shape as just about really a full-blown nor'easter, depending on kind of your definition of it. Definitely taking a nor'easter track. Now, strength-wise, this will not be one of those 960 millibar lows, but it will be strong enough that we're going to have plenty of lift out of this one, even if it is kind of a quick-hitting storm system that works on through. So let's go ahead and time it out for you, give you the latest timing. We'll take a look at snowfall totals and make sure that you're up to date here. I'll also very quickly interject here. If you're still around this evening, I will be live at 7 p.m. tonight, and I will have a guest speaker. I'll have BGWX with me. He has his own YouTube channel, and he's really big on Twitter, and he is an absolute whiz at breaking down winter weather, and he's from the Northeast. So if you live up here, come back tonight, ask some questions. We're going to get really nitty-gritty into the meteorology and kind of break this storm system down. So definitely come back 7 p.m. tonight onto this channel. We will have that going for you, and we'll probably go for an hour or two. So if you can't make it in until 7:30, still definitely swing on by. All right, let's go and talk about the storm now. All right, so just a very quick kind of, overview of it. This is tomorrow afternoon about noon, snow breaking out from DC into Baltimore, really through much of the DMV area, seeing some snow out of this guy, and then even into Western Maryland, just about the entire state of West Virginia seeing snow. We'll move it through the afternoon by about 3 p.m., Philly, much of New Jersey, northern Delaware getting in on that snow. I'll tell you folks, these could be pretty, heavy snowfall rates. This probably won't be a light snow. This will be much closer to a moderate to heavy snow event for this corridor of the country. And then we get into the evening time by about the time the sun is setting, New York City getting in on the fun. And then into the overnight, Boston, Hartford, Bridgeport, into Providence, seeing some really nice snow out of this. And again, I think these will be heavy rates. A classic I-95 pace job looking to be pretty likely out of this one. And then when you get into later into the evening towards 10, 11 p.m. up into New England, really beginning to crank up, starting to wind down back towards Philly, Baltimore, and DC, but still snowing good into Boston, much of Rhode Island, Connecticut, into New Hampshire and Maine, getting heavy snow out of this one. And then by the time we wake up Monday morning, folks, it is just about done. Some leftover snow on the backside, some lake effect snow picking up here through portions of New York State, Michigan, and kind of the normal trouble spots there, getting plenty more lake effect on top of what has already been a very lake effect heavy winter so far. So a pretty good little storm system here. Like I said, quick hitting, but the rates will be heavy. And because of that, we're going to get some pretty good snowfall totals. So this is the latest forecast from the National Weather Service, from all the different offices across the country that kind of do their own local forecast. A couple hot spots in the south. You will notice the mountains of North Carolina going to get some snow along those northwestern facing slopes, even the upper French Broad River Valley here north of Asheville, likely to get some good snow, I think, out of this one. In and around Boone, going to see some snow. And check out eastern Kentucky here, back towards Pikeville. I wouldn't be surprised to see a good 2 to 4 inch snow event there. And then totals really pick up as you get into the mountains of West Virginia. Half a foot to a foot of snow, where winter storm warnings are already in effect, looking pretty likely out of this storm. And then areas back into Ohio, Indiana, even central Kentucky and central Tennessee. Probably not a big storm for you, but a quick dusting up to an inch. Not out of the question by any means back into those areas. Now, where the real fun will be is in the Northeast. And I think this has trended even better today for the I-95. I showed you the NAM that showed the nice snow line kind of really for most folks. The NWS going a little bit further inland on their heavy snowfall totals, but the trend today has actually been a little bit better for I-95. Like I said, this has come back south and east a little bit. So Philadelphia, latest forecast, or really Philly, Baltimore, New York City, all those areas right in that 2 to 5 inch range. Boston a little bit higher, more about half a foot of snow or so, especially if you go west of the city into kind of those suburbs on the west side and into Western Mass in general. Higher in snowfall looking likely. Into the Hudson River Valley, northern New Jersey. I wouldn't be surprised to see half a foot to 8 inches or so, and then some pretty good snow up into Maine. Now, this is the, I would say, middle of the road forecast. Let me show you some models and show you a bit of a higher end potential, and I think this storm does have that potential for higher end totals. This is the latest GFS model, and I think actually handling the storm pretty well, and you'll notice some isolated totals in here, sprinkling into double digits, some 10-inch totals, some 11-inch, 12-inch, up here into Western Mass, down into the Hudson Valley, and then into northern New Jersey. I think specifically this corridor right into here, I would watch for heavier snowfall totals of near that 10 to 12 inch range. Would not surprise me at all. Even on the GFS higher end totals in New York City, half a foot, Philadelphia, half a foot, Boston between half a foot and 10 inches. So there is definitely a higher end scenario with the storm, but I think what I showed you before is probably the more realistic road. Now, this could also blow up in our face a little bit. Maybe we get some lighter end snowfall totals. The swath stays about the same, but the storm's just a little too quick hitting, and it's more of a kind of 2 to 4 inch event for most folks. But either way, just about everyone here along the I-95 likely to see snow. some areas more than others, and that's always the fun part of forecasting snow in this region. I think it's just one of the best things to do, or just one of the fun parts of meteorology in general, is snowfall forecasting, especially in this area, because a lot of people live here, and they will absolutely keep you accountable, trust me, on how that forecast verifies. So we'll see what happens, but I think a pretty good little winter weather event on the way. In fact, I would even argue a moderate winter storm, even for Northeast standards out of that one. All right, that sets the stage for what's next. That's the brutal cold and the southern snow threat by early next week. Let's take a look at the cold really quickly. I've been showing this in my videos, but if you haven't been keeping up, it's going to get cold. These are high temperatures Monday afternoon. And check this out, folks. We're going to be below freezing for a high temperature on Monday, back down into Charlotte, Atlanta, Birmingham, even into Little Rock, back all the way into the Texas Panhandle. Single-digit highs into the Ohio Valley, highs below 0 degrees rather, Fahrenheit, up into the northern plains. Yeah, it's going to be downright bone-chilling cold, and the wind on top of that will make the feels like even lower than the temperatures you see here. Now, we're waking up Tuesday morning. Yeah, the cold's still there. Check out these low temperatures into the teens, into the deep south. We've got single digits through the Ohio Valley. Low temperatures could crack -20 through North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and even back up into Wisconsin. Just really about as cold as it can get for this time of year. And since it's already the coldest time of year, yeah, that means super cold for just about everyone. Heck, the freezing line getting all the way down into North Florida, probably not far from areas in and around Gainesville. Would not be surprised to see below freezing low temperatures Tuesday morning. All right, now there's the cold, and now let's talk about the energy we need for a storm. And I'm not going to get super in-depth on this again on the live tonight. I'll talk about this more in depth, but just to give you a quick overview in case you can't make it tonight, basically what we've got is a big trough swinging through. So we've already got the cold air in place. Then we get this very kind of long, strung out trough here, very long wave trough, but it's kind of broken up into two segments. If you look at it carefully, we've kind of got one strong trough in here and then another trough here. So it's kind of a double trough, if you will, in one. So you could argue maybe two short waves within a long wave, but kind of how these two interact is going to be very important for how strong our storm gets. And I made a graphic today. As this is swinging on through, we're going to have an area of very high, what we call baroclinic instability along the Gulf Coast and up through the Carolina coast. Basically, all that means is it's very favorable for low pressure to form and strengthen. Now, if the trough is in a favorable orientation on top of that baroclinic instability, we could set up a big time, arguably historic storm. If we just have the baroclinic instability and the trough's kind of in a messy orientation, then this will be still a big winter storm for southern standards, but maybe not something that goes down into the record books. And that's what we still don't know. There will be a storm, we know that. The magnitude of it is the question. The latest European, though, pretty feisty with it. You see all of this energy down here, but see how we kind of get this one little piece of energy and then a more robust piece of energy to the north here. If this robust piece up here can tilt negative quicker, which you can kind of see happening right here at the end of the run, it goes neutral right about here, just a little too late. If it gets negative quicker, though, and towards this neutral state, we could get a bigger storm, especially in the Carolinas. I think the eastern Carolinas have a big-time boom potential with this one. That could be of historic magnitude if the pieces line up correctly. Elsewhere in the south, we will get snow through Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, Louisiana. I also think Louisiana has kind of a big boom potential back into this area as well. And we'll even give you a sneak peek of those snowfall totals in just a second. But either way, high-end, upper-level energy combined with big-time cold. Yeah, that's a recipe for southern snow. That's exactly what we're going to get out of this. Sorry, I just kind of, well, there we go. I'll remind you here. Subscribe, like, and the bell, all that. Sorry, hit the wrong button there. But let's go ahead and take a look at model data and dive into this a little bit better. Okay, so we'll move this ahead. This is the latest European model from this afternoon. There's the weekend storm in the northeast tomorrow. We just talked about that nice-looking storm. Now, here comes the other storm, beginning down into Texas, Louisiana. This is Tuesday early morning. Again, time right above my head. If you can't read it, I'll try to verbalize it for you. But Tuesday morning, January 21st. So we're only a couple days away at this point. Big time snow developing into Louisiana, East Texas, including Houston, New Orleans. Now, this model shows snow in New Orleans. I'm skeptical. I think New Orleans might run into some sleet problems, but either way, winter weather is going to happen all the way to the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. We've got snow in southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, even up into the Atlanta area by Tuesday afternoon. We've even got some light snow into the western Carolinas from Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville. Not a big storm on this model for you folks, but snow nonetheless. and then the storm begins to crank up, move up the coast a little bit, and this is when I think that boom potential is there for areas like Columbia, South Carolina, Florence, South Carolina, back down into south central Georgia, Macon, Warner Robins, Fayetteville, North Carolina, up the I-95 corridor towards the Raleigh area. Could have big potential here if the pieces line up, kind of like the Euro is showing here with big snow. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Charleston, down to Savannah, a big winter storm with definitely some snow, maybe some sleet mixing in there as well, could be a concern. For coastal sections of the Carolinas here. And then the storm kind of cranks up a little bit and tries to work up the coast somewhat on the European. We've got snow into southeastern Virginia, Newport News, Richmond, Virginia Beach, up into the Delmarva, and even into southern New Jersey, seeing a little bit of snow as this storm pulls away. That would be, let's see, Tuesday afternoon, overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, and then we're done by Wednesday morning. So not a super long lasting storm, but definitely a very notable one. With very far south here in the track. Now that's the European. Here's a GFS. GFS latest run. In fact, I don't think we're going to have the 18Z quite yet, but we'll talk about that in the live stream tonight, so we'll come back then. GFS is a little bit more of a buzzkill. Starts the same way. We've got big snow in Louisiana, Texas. All the models really agree on that at this point. Even gets that snow into southern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, but then misses out on kind of the boom potential that the European showed and has more of a light to moderate winter weather event from Columbia, Fayetteville, Florence, into much of eastern North Carolina. Even east of the I-95 corridor here into Rocky Mount, Greenville, North Carolina, even the Outer Banks seeing some snow on this model run, but the storm just doesn't quite crank up as much, and you get a weaker looking system on that model run. Now, let me show you one more model. This is the NAM, and we're now getting close to what we call mesoscale range, and that'll unlock a whole new fun cabinet of models. We'll get the NAM, we'll get the graph, the high resolution rapid refresh, we'll get all sorts of fun things. But let's see what this model is showing. Now, take it with a grain of salt because these things change and it's at the end of its run cycle, so it's probably going to change plenty between now and the actual storm. But here we go. This is Tuesday morning. That's snow and ice beginning into Texas, Louisiana. A little bit later on this model, more late Tuesday morning into afternoon and evening. And then we'll move it ahead. And the final frame here shows that boom potential beginning. Heavy ice into the Florida Panhandle, South Georgia, including Savannah. It's got some kind of sleet snow mix at the beaches of South Carolina from Beaufort all the way up to Myrtle Beach and the Garden City area, Murrells Inlet, Georgetown, all those areas getting a sleet, a kind of snow hodgepodge, if you will. But areas further inland, big snow from Fayetteville to Florence into the PD, Columbia, South Carolina. That's an area that, let me just go ahead and take a second to talk about because you folks have been kind of snow-starved in general since 2014. 2022, you had some small events. I think this could be a big one for areas like Columbia, Fayetteville, Florence, right into here and even up into kind of southeastern North Carolina, just inland a little bit from kind of the Wilmington and Jacksonville area. This is an area I'm watching for big time boom potential where we could see historic snow in that area. Now, maybe not, number one all-time snow, but could easily crack a top 5 snow event, maybe even a top 3 snow event if we get a boom scenario, kind of like some of the models are showing. The question will be, will that happen? And that's what you're going to need to just kind of stay tuned and find out for because I don't really have the answer yet and nobody does. So with that said, let's take a look at some totals. Now, back into Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, we're feeling a lot more confident in our forecast back here with totals potentially from 3 to 6 inches in this area. Sorry, I've got something stuck in my throat here at the end of the video. We can get through this. Just a couple more maps to show you. All right, here we go. So here's the kind of snowfall totals in here. Again, kind of that 3 to 6 inch range. Going to be pretty common in that area. Places like New Orleans, tougher forecasts. The blend of models here shows about 1.5 inches. I think probably 2 inches or so of kind of a sleet snow mix, maybe up to 3 or 4 inches is also possible. We'll have plenty of precipitation to work with in here. The question will be, what is snow? What is sleet? What is ice? That'll be the tougher forecast, but definitely a nice area in here. Back into Houston, likely going to get some snow, a couple of inches, which, by the way, I'll add, is more than enough to shut down these cities. One, they don't have plows. This is not an area that, plans for snow. Number two, it's going to be so cold that this snow's not going to melt the next day. Sometimes when we get snow in the south, it kind of shows up and then it's gone by the next morning. This is not going to be the case. We've got that Arctic air mass that'll last really through much of next week. That'll keep this snow on the ground for a while. As the photographer in me that loves the idea of this, I can only imagine the potential compositions of the swamps and the snow. So I don't know, it's just something cool to think about, but it will be very impactful for areas down here. Now, that's where we feel more confident about our snowfall total. So let's move it east a little bit. Confidence decreases as you get into Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. This is the latest European ensemble percent chance of at least an inch of snow happening. Now, the ensemble is very confident. Coastal areas from North Carolina all the way down into the Florida Panhandle going to get at least an inch of snow. I agree mostly with that. Now, we'll have to watch. Does this shift north at all? It's kind of a notorious thing that happens in the models here. At the last second, these storms like to over-amplify a little bit, push inland. The warm nose becomes a problem. That's what we'll need to watch for at the beaches. But I think either way, the QPF will be enough in here, meaning our precipitation amount will be enough that even if all this falls as sleet, it'll probably come out to at least an inch of sleet into these areas. Now, Columbia, South Carolina, back down into South Central Georgia, South Central Alabama, and kind of up into Fayetteville. This is an area I am less worried about ice. And I would think it's really the prime place to be. If you want an all snow event, you want a nice snow, you want it to fall for a good amount of time, you don't want to worry about ice, I honestly want to be in Columbia, Florence, maybe back down into Augusta, into South Central Georgia, and then up into this corridor of eastern North Carolina. I think that's the money place to be. Now, areas that it's a tougher forecast: Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, into Birmingham, central Mississippi, even northern Louisiana. Can we get enough precipitation that far north to get accumulating snow of significant amounts? We will see. It's just too soon to say yes or no. I think it's going to be harder back out here into Mississippi and Alabama, or excuse me, into Louisiana and Mississippi rather, but I think Alabama back up towards the Charlotte area, we've got more time to kind of get the models to trend in the right direction. And then we'll move this up the East Coast a little bit. Like I was saying, eastern North Carolina looks like a great place to be. I think right along the I-95 corridor could really be the bullseye, including a place like Raleigh. Hasn't seen a big snowstorm in a while. This one could be pretty good for you. Charlotte, we talked about that a little bit. You're right on that fine line. The model's saying about a 40-50% chance if you're back towards Monroe and kind of Union County, North Carolina. Probably a higher end chance than if you're up near maybe the Statesville area or the Huntersville area. It's kind of flipped. Normally Huntersville and kind of areas on the north side of the city up near Lake Norman have a higher end chance. This time, other way around. Back down towards kind of South Carolina has a higher end chance, especially south and east of the city along the US 74 corridor, Wadesboro, areas like that going to have a good chance at seeing accumulating snow out of this. And then we get up into the Delmarva, another area that we can't rule out. If the storm is able to pull up the coast some, then we could get a big snow into the Delmarva, southeast Virginia, maybe southern New Jersey. Another one of those areas, just more questions than answers at this point, but we'll definitely keep on monitoring it and keep you up to date. Alrighty, folks. Sorry I died almost there at the end, but hopefully I'll be good enough to get through this storm. I think I will, and we'll keep you up to date. All right, y'all have a great one. Come back tonight for the live at 7 on this channel. The link is already on the channel, so just click on it. Again, if you haven't subscribed, it's a great way. It'll notify you about the live if you hit the bell and all of that great stuff. All right, folks, have a great one. Stay safe, stay warm. I'll see you all tonight.